Hello, new NSLS members. My name is Jeff from Trill or Not Trill. Welcome again to your orientation. At this point, you've learned more about the National Society of Leadership and Success, the steps you need to take to achieve induction, the local schedule, and opportunities to get more involved at your campus. Now we're going to talk a little bit about the tool that NSLS provides to our members. At your next local event, your Leadership Training Day, you will be introduced to NSLS's Foundations of Leadership, where you'll become a six-tool leader. Today, we're gonna lay the groundwork for one of those foundations by looking at the concept of communication. Communication is one of the keys to success. We will introduce you to the keys to identifying your communication styles. These communication styles will help you understand your leadership style and how you'll be able to express and communicate with other leaders and those around you. So let's get started. First, we want to point out that everyone communicates in a different way. But even with all these different styles, everyone generally fits into 4 teams. We have hashtag Team Arrive, hashtag Team Think, hashtag Team Intrigue, hashtag Team Accept. Now, what do each of these teams mean? And how do you know which one you fit into? Let's dive a little bit deeper into what makes each team unique.
Bruno Mars.
That's just real. At the center of bringing any dream into fruition is self-discipline.
You know where the hats come from is because of this hair, and I don't know what to do with it.
You cannot win the war against the world if you can't win the war against your own mind.
If I had one plea for the collective room tonight, creative is the variable of success.
Tonight, we escape them, and we shut them down because we can.
It is through dedication that we move forward. How we explain when they go low, we go high.
Messi! The use or misuse of power is everything. Will it be for the greater good? Now, this is a question we must all ask ourselves.
I feel I'm mistaken when they think that technology just automatically improves.
This is the captain. Brace for impact.
I like solving problems, Commander. And Enigma is the most difficult problem in the world.
I'm sorry, Dad, but you wouldn't understand.
Oh, sure I would, Princess.
The problem is the speed at which things are changing. We got work to do.
We have a lot of information to cover before your first test, which, by the way, is in 8 minutes.
The return to play. Maybe the murder weapon was one of Wes's kitchen knives.
And that is your card.
Oh my God!
Feminism, by definition, is the belief that men and women should have equal rights.
We traveled around the world to learn more about the effects of climate change on our planet and all of us.
You think I know the first thing about who you are because I read Oliver Twist?
Your natural tendencies will likely fall within one of these teams, and there will be times that you might need to own aspects of a different team based on the environment around you. So let's take a moment to rank each of these teams in order from which one you think best represents your communication style to which one least represents it. Your top team will be the one that you feel like you represent the majority of the time. Your facilitator will now give you about a minute to do your ranking. So now that you've identified your team, let's jump into an activity where you'll learn another tool to help you understand where you are with communication so you can meet others where they are. This exercise is known as the 4 corners. Here's what we have. First off, we're going to get into 4 corners through a 2-step process. First, we're going to divide into 2 sections. What we're getting into here is really how you and I see the world, or how we see ourselves and environments that we enter. There are 2 responses to this, and I like to describe them both first, and then have you decide which description sounds most like you. So imagine if we're in a quiet room right now and you actually walk in. An active-paced person would actually make some noise if they felt that it was too quiet. So they're coming in with the idea that they can make it whatever they want. On the other side of the spectrum are people who tend to be a little bit more thoughtful. And when we use the term thoughtful, we think of a moderate pace, calm, methodical, maybe even careful. For them, unlike their active peers, if a thoughtful person walks into the same quiet room, they're likely to adjust their own behavior to fit into the environment that already exists in the space. So based on those 2 sides of the spectrum, I'd like for you to think about which one best describes you. I know it's not absolutely black and white, but just choose whichever one you think is you the majority of the time and situations. So if you're active, I'd like for you to remember the word red. You can jot it down on a piece of paper or in your phone if you need to. On the flip side, if you think that you're more thoughtful in your approach in an environment, I'd like for you to remember the word blue. Again, remember the word red for active or the word blue for thoughtful. Now that we've divided into 2 groups based on how we approach an environment, we're gonna shift away from what you do when you enter an environment, and now we're gonna think about what you focus on when you're working in an environment. First, there's the idea of being questioning. When we say questioning, that means someone is in an environment or a group and says something to the effect of, "What's going on here? What are we doing?" For them, it's about logic, objectives, and questioning with the idea that they want facts before they decide to do something. On the other side of the spectrum are people with the idea of being accepting. For folks that are accepting, they say, "Hey, who's here doing whatever we're doing?" So where the questioning group, the focus is on what's happening, the focus with the accepting group is on who's doing it. For this group, it's about empathizing, being agreeable, and who they're doing it with. So big picture, if you're questioning, you might be said to be more of a task-focused individual. If you're accepting, you might be more people or relationship-focused. So again, going back to the 2 colors, if you find yourself to be questioning in most situations, I'd like for you to remember the word red. Just like before, you can jot it down on a piece of paper or in your phone if you need to. If you find yourself to be most accepting in most situations, go ahead and remember the word blue. Now that you've chosen and written down responses to both questions, we'd like to give you the chance to engage in a conversation around this and understand exactly what that means for you. From the answers you just gave, we're going to split you into what we're calling the 4 corners. So let's talk about exactly what each of those 4 corners means that you've divided into by your choices. For starters, if you chose red, you're likely to be thinking something along the lines of, what's going on and how can I mold it? This is typically the characteristic of #TeamArrive and #TeamIntrigue. If you chose red-blue, you're likely to be thinking, who is here and how can I influence them? This is typically the characteristic of #TeamArrive and #TeamAccept. If you chose blue, you're likely to be thinking, who is here and how can I help them? This is typically the characteristic of #TeamThink and #TeamAccept. And finally, if you chose blue-red, you're likely to be thinking, what's going on and how can I make sure it's right? This is typically the characteristic of #TeamThink and #TeamIntrigue. Ultimately, people in each of these corners have a different focus when walking into a new space. What I'd like for you to do is to take a moment and identify why it is that you chose the corner that you did during this exercise. To facilitate and help this to stick a bit more, we're gonna do a quick activity. I'm gonna describe it first, and then I'll tell you when to get started. First, you need to choose a partner sitting next to you in the room. If anyone ends up without a partner, go ahead and make a group of 3. So you'll be speaking with 1 or 2 other people. Then you're going to have about 3 minutes to talk to one another about which colors you chose and why you chose what you did, whether you're active or thoughtful, and whether you're questioning or accepting. I'd also like you to compare the team you originally self-identified into versus the ones associated with your 4 corners activity. Were they similar? If not, why do you think so? Remember, you have about 3 minutes to complete this. Go ahead and get started now. To recap that again, 1, we need to know and understand our own style. 2, we need to recognize the challenges that come up in conversation. And 3, we need to be able to identify and recognize how to flex our natural inclinations to meet the preferred styles of others in order to meet them in having an effective conversation. And finally, as leaders, we need to communicate in the language of our listeners or team members in order to effectively work with and lead them. So today, we've looked at a very high level at behavior and communication styles with a focus that comes from a tool known as the DISC assessment. We use DISC at our national office as a tool that helps us to better communicate with others in order to lead them. Now let's talk about your next steps. After the orientation, your chapter leaders will be entering your attendance into our online system. Once your attendance is entered, you will each get an email inviting you to take a free online DISC assessment through our members area portal. When you complete that assessment, you will get the information that applies directly to your own communication style, a video, and a downloadable document that will help you understand the ins and the outs of your personal style. But we're not done there. It's great to learn more about ourselves, but of course, we want to use this tool to help us be better leaders, to empower others, and to inspire them to act. To that end, we're going to dive back into communication styles and how you can use those to work more effectively with others during Leadership Training Day, the next step coming up as you work towards induction. So be sure you know when your Leadership Training Day is scheduled and put it on your calendar, because we'll be giving you practical leadership tools during that event. I'll see you again at Leadership Training Day.